All right, folks, welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I'm with Ashton Forbes. Everyone knows Ashton Forbes out there in the internet land. They know him as the guy that's investigating the Malaysia flight that disappeared. You've seen the footage, folks. It's crazy. Orbs flying around this plane, and then bam, whammo, it's gone. Ashton, thank you so much for joining me right now. This is going to be a very interesting discussion. We're going to be talking about Marco Rubio's Age of Disclosure documentary and what that really means. So, and I want to get your thoughts on all this stuff. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you're the go-to guy in all this stuff. I know you've been researching it all. So first of all, folks, first comes first. Get your trim with Nino, baby. Headlines everywhere talk about Ozempic and similar miracle weight loss shots. But what most people don't realize is this. A major analysis just found that people who stop taking these injections nearly gain all their weight back within a year. That's the catch. These drugs only work while you're taking them. They're expensive at the moment. And then when you stop, your body fights back. This is why I use this new product, and I'm obsessed on how it makes my body look. GLP-1 Elevate helps my body naturally trigger the same hunger-controlling, craving-reducing signals that Ozempic would, but without needles, prescriptions, or side effects. And folks, we don't know the long-term effects on this stuff. It promotes safety and fullness, helps reduce hunger hormones, supports fat loss instead of muscle loss, and even helps maintain healthy blood sugar levels that I finally get results that last. Grab a bag of BioTrust GLP-1, folks, for 40% off and start experiencing real results only at Trim with Nino, baby. Leave out the baby, just the Trim with Nino. Plus, they have a promotion right now that includes a 60-day satisfaction guarantee with every order and free expedited shipping on subscriptions. Once again, that's Trim with Nino. Get down there on the link below and hit it. All right, let's get into this. So first of all, everyone knows you, right, from the Malaysia thing. And I think I want to play some of that just to show people, just give them a point of reference of what the hell. And I keyed up a cool video here because this is wild. And we know for sure this isn't AI, right, Ashton?
No. The one video, and it's probably since the last time we've spoken, the one that we're looking at here, the one that's like almost like blue and white grayscale, that's actually Gorgon Stare wide area motion imagery. So this is made by the United States Air Force. This is going to become relevant in our discussion here about the age of disclosure and the Air Force's connection to, UFO technology and crash retrievals. So this was the big reveal and probably why the government's now a little bit scared, whereas before they weren't really afraid of these videos because no one was really going to believe them before. And
well,
then
now with AI, you don't know what you're looking at, but this was before AI made a big thing.
And this looks like this is an AI upscaled version of it, though. I can just tell because I've seen the videos so often. So this is not the original that you're looking at here, although it's close enough. And it looks like they've inverted one of the videos to match the frame of reference here. So somebody took both videos here and they modified it a little bit so you could clearly see how both videos.
So hold on, this is the original video, or is this?
I mean, it's a version of the original. So they took the version of the original video and they upscale it with AI and this, I can tell. And it looks like what they were trying to do here is compare both videos. There's two videos here. You could see picture in picture.
Got you. Okay. So there's these orbs that are circling around this plane, which if I was on the plane, I'd be freaking out.
Yeah, I don't know if I could even see them. I mean, a big part of this technology, and this is definitely quote unquote UFO technology, is that they can just bend light entirely around them. This is why they're also invisible to radar, because electromagnetic waves will just flow right around them, almost like a water droplet. Or, as people know, if we look out in the galaxy or in the universe, we see these black holes, and we can see the light from stars behind them bend entirely around the black holes. That's kind of like what this is doing as well, is that we can like actually bend the waves entirely around our object, which is now what allows for some of these observables that they call them in this UFO technology. But really what we're dealing with those orbs is just plasma. They're little fusion reactors, plasma fusion reactors that are using the X-rays that get produced in fusion as little propulsion mechanisms in these videos. So, long story short, the Air Force is definitely connected to this secret technology, whatever you want to call it, gravity manipulation. And obviously, as we see from this video, it's taken itself to an extreme level at this point. And this actually connects to the topic we're talking about, the age of disclosure. Because if you look at this, I mean, the big reason why these videos are so hard to accept and believe is not only are we seeing these orbs spin around the plane, but the plane just disappears and it is gone. It's just not there anymore. Can you
trying to get to the good part here?
That? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to the good part here. I mean,
do you want me to share it? I can also share.
Yeah, why don't you share it and show everybody? That's just a lot easier.
Yeah. And I'm just approve my request here, and then I'll share it as well because I've got
Yep.
the originals here, so that people can see the high quality version. So, the high quality Gorgon stare video is the one that I've got pulled up here right
There it
now.
is.
And this you can see if you look in the bottom left, you can see the coordinates pretty accurately, and you can see how they shift, like when the screen moves. Like I don't know,
So is the plane looks like it's doing an awkward maneuver right there.
yeah.
Does it know it's being tailed, or does it what is it doing exactly right here?
I mean, I can only speculate, of course, but the speculation that I've come up with is that they were trying to land in the ocean. Like this is a drone
Jeez.
recording it from above. So this plane is flying really low. I actually had a different investigator. I can't say who. They told me not to say, but one of the MH370 investigators recognized those are cumulus clouds, meaning that's very low altitude that we're looking at here. And they independently came to that conclusion, which I had already known. So this is very low. Yes, making this sharp turn. So either they're in control of the plane and they're
Oh,
preparing it, like vectoring it for how they want, what direction they want to send it or zap
so
it or
so you
whatever.
see the flash, you see the plane's gone.
Yeah,
Those people are not accounted for. Nobody knows where they are.
no,
Nobody knows where that plane ever went, correct?
correct. And then we were told it went into the South Indian Ocean. I'll play the other video as well. And this is the thermal. This one was released a few weeks after the first video. And both these are from 2014. They predate AI. Now, you could say the military has AI. Could the military have faked their own AI videos? Theoretically, but they didn't. These are real. This is really MH370. You've never seen a hoax where a real missing plane is being hoaxed in two military videos. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist because, believe it or not, this is the real deal. And this video is really to show us that those orbs are real. Now, I don't know why I was one of the first people to be able to realize that we're looking at plasma there, but the configuration of that plasma, the fact that we can see the plasma without a field, like
I
something
see it.
around it,
I see it.
that's a magnetic field that's controlling plasma within it there. And this is a very clear signature sign of a fusion reactor. In fact, there's only a few kinds that create these spherical shapes that you see like this
Mm-hmm.
with the heat signature. It's almost certainly a non-equilibrium reverse field configuration. Like that's the actual name for it, where like the magnetic fields flow outwards like the Earth. And then
Right.
so they're at the point where you have like the flowing outward, that's where you've got these black lines going in front of it and behind them. They're kind of hard to see in this version of it, but the other version has it. So really what these videos mean is well, that part right there, you see them
You
converge
saw like
like
a
that as
black
well.
hole instantly open up and suck them in, right?
I
That's
think
what.
it literally is a black hole. So this version of the video, which is the original version, after that, then it has these slow-mo parts in it
Mhm.
where it really shows you these orbs. Like that's just plasma right there. And I think they switched to some kind of non-equilibrium where all of a sudden half of it is like green and the other half of it is blue. And that's where it's almost like you're separating charge in like an engine or something like that. But here's the best part is the end, the slow-mo, super slow-mo of that zap happening. You know, the thing that blew me away since we last spoke that I learned was that what you see with this triangle
Mhm.
configuration and how they converge is like a perfect match for thermonuclear weapons. That's
Wow.
how thermonuclear weapons work. Is we try to make our waves collapse onto a single point, which is where we have our fusion payload, and then we create an implosive fusion effect. And then that made me start wondering, like, huh, have we ever seen a fusion bomb before? Like, have we ever actually seen one? I don't think so. Why do we
No.
think that it would even necessarily make a big boom? What if it does like the opposite? What if it just like rips right through space time because it creates this
So
huge amount of energy density?
let me
Go
ask
ahead.
you this. So there had to be, I think you stated this before.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously we've had to have got this from some kind of alien technology, right? I mean, that's just kind of a
Oh,
given.
I
But
wouldn't
it's
be
not
obvious. I wouldn't say it's obvious. I mean, okay,
okay,
go ahead.
but what I'm saying is on this flight there was a certain amount of scientists, correct,
Yeah.
that were very much wanted by what other governments um, for their
Well,
technology. So is it kind of like is it fair to say that another government could have been using that technology on them to take them away from wherever they were going
yeah.
and intercept them? Or do you think this was, I mean, we don't know, was this were these aliens that took the flight, or do you think it was the technology of another government or um, uh, any kind of nefarious agency taking that plane and doing what they want with those people? Because
Yeah.
I've heard rumors that they were in Diego Air Force Base, they've landed there, and all this stuff. We've all heard the rumors, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not aliens in those videos for sure. And I don't
Okay.
even think the technology has to be aliens. It goes back to Tesla. So we
Yeah.
can date it back to Tesla. I think you can date it back to the Nazis in World War II as well. Things with the Die Glock. I think that's how we got the technology. Honestly, I just did a big interview with Jason 𝗂𝗯𝗓. If you haven't spoken to him, you should probably try to reach out to him because he knows
Okay.
so much about history. And it seems to connect. Like all that fusion stuff that they were working on that stuff in like the 50s and then the 60s as well. And then all of a sudden it just goes dark. And so it's like the pieces seem to connect on that front. With respect to what they did to the plane and why, I think you nailed it. It's actually that it was some kind of espionage thing going on. This was one of my very first theories before I even knew all the details of what was going on in these videos. It was like this got to be maybe some kind of weird espionage where I think it's not even just espionage, but like counter espionage. Like China was going to get these people on the plane and the United States prevented from happening. I know it was the United States that are doing what we see in that video.
So
And the
you
reason
think
why
that
I
was
know
our
that,
government, our black government
oh, it is
ops?
absolutely no question the
Okay.
United States that did it. Now, the question is like, were we justified in doing it? That's where it starts to get a lot murkier. Okay. And that's where we have to look at some things. But the reason why we know that is we're looking at General Atomics MQ-9 Reaper drone with a color FLIR camera, right? With under the hard point number 5 under the wing. That's a General
Okay.
Atomics, that's an American military drone. And we can see that drone in the one video. And then the Air Force, the Gorgon Stare, which is the 𝗬𝗶𝗶𝗃 being shot from above, that's Air Force technology, directly Air Force, made for the Air Force by the Air Force, and it can only be that version, Gorgon Stare 𝗬𝗶𝗃. So you've got Air Force asset recording it, and then you've got another drone recording it, and they're doing it in with surveillance capabilities that weren't even publicly acknowledged at the time. The Gorgon Stare Increment 2 that we're looking at was only told to be operational in June of that same year. So like 2 months after
Mhm.
after the plane disappeared. They said, yeah, okay, this is operational, and then never spoke about it ever again. And we're now looking at leaked footage of that. The color FLIR, we still have never seen any color FLIR publicly. I mean, of course it exists. I mean, it's not technology is impossible. So this implies the United States government did it. Now the motive. Do you know what the number one highest market cap company in the world is right now?
Tell me.
The most valuable company in the world.
It's
Name
going to be
thoughts? Yes.
technology. What is it?
Nvidia. Nvidia is
Nvidia.
worth $5 trillion right now.
$5 trillion.
5 trillion. They're worth more than a lot of countries are worth. And do you know Nvidia, they had huge market share in China up until recently. They had 95% market share in China. Do you know what their market share in China is right now? Even
What
though
is it?
they're the number one most valuable country in the world.
Over 95%? What is it?
Zero.
Zero.
0%. Exactly 0%. Do you know where they're getting all their who's buying all their stuff? It's us. It's OpenAI, it's X, Grok, it's Microsoft. It's literally we are in a literal semiconductor war, they call it, but it's just a microchip war with
Which is
China and
why
who's
they want to
winning.
take Taiwan.
Yeah, and so instead, what did we do? We took Nvidia. We took their number one chip
No.
manufacturer. And do you know who one of their competitors was? Freescale Semiconductors. The people that were on that airplane, the 20 engineers on that airplane,
Which is
were working
why
for
they
Freescale
disappeared.
Semiconductors. Here's a
I
fun
mean,
story for you. I After I found out about this, I was like, oh my God, semiconductors are the future. And I started seeing that there's this trade war going on. I was like, I gotta invest in Freescale. And I found out they were bought out by NXPI the next year. So I invested in some NXPI. I remember I went and talked to a financial advisor. I was telling him this story. I'm like, dude, the microchips are going to go up. They're going to go up. And he's like, oh, do you mean companies like NVIDIA? And I was like, no, 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 man. NXPI, NXPI. This was like 2023. So he was right. I ended up being wrong. And I often think about what that guy thinks now because Nvidia's gone up like 10 times in the last 10 times their value in like the last 2 years. So since that conversation happened, I ended up just picking the wrong one. I picked NXPI, but presumably we moved away from that company, especially after this whole fiasco. And then we instead were like, Nvidia, here you go. Come on in and be the prime supplier for all American AI data centers, all this stuff that
so
we're
do
doing
you
because that's
think
the
these
race.
scientists were taken and then just read the riot act and now you're working for us and no one will ever see you again? I mean,
That's what the letter to me says. There's a letter to me that came out on YouTube, which I think is actually real. I don't know if every detail is accurate, but I think that somebody in the know sent me that letter because they knew that the
sent
government
you
was
the
revealing the
letter.
truth. Yeah, sent it to
Can
me
you?
on a YouTube video on a YouTube channel that is like Diego Garcia whistleblower letter to Ashton Forbes.
Oh my
And I mean,
God.
in there, it's like a personal letter to me about the plane, about this technology, about when and how we discovered this technology in the 60s. And we basically used it to, take control of the world. So that theory says that those people went back to work for the American company, but I don't
Too
really
valuable
believe
to
it.
just off.
Could
I
be.
mean,
Depends
they're
on what they
just.
were doing. Yeah.
I mean, they're just too valuable of an asset. So, my question is this: so obviously, we see
Mhm.
these orbs flying around the plane.
Yeah.
Black hole appears. It gets sucked in. Okay, where did it go? So, what you said something on the
Yeah.
last video that there had to have been another orb in front of it with the coordinates. Correct? There had to be coordinates because you can have all this technology, but you got to know where you're sending it. You can't just make the
Yeah.
plane disappear. So, what would be on the other end of this? What would make it disappear and then suck it into the correct coordinates? Because obviously, I mean,
Yeah.
when you look into like the Philadelphia experiment and all
Yep.
this stuff when they were playing with this technology, I mean, these guys didn't even know where they were going. Everything blurred around them, and everyone came back as part of the ship. I mean, could people have come back as part? I mean, did we hone in on this technology? Is it so advanced now? Like, in the Philadelphia experience, they all came back in parts of the ship. They were all
Yeah.
mended into the ship. I mean, do you think? I mean, we're at the level now where we could send the plane where we want. Everyone got there safely.
I think we might be at that level. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say from those videos how far. And we're already dealing with technology where even just the basic idea of it is already beyond our wildest dreams, right? We're talking about things like teleportation. There's a conjecture called ER equals EPR. You should
Okay.
memorize this, and your audience should memorize it. ER equals EPR by Leonard Susskind and 𝗏𝗏. When I first started looking into wormholes, I found them and I found this conjecture. It basically says a wormhole is basically like quantum entanglement. It is quantum entanglement, in fact. And then they would say, okay, well, then what does that mean a black hole is? That means that a black hole is a giant wormhole, but it doesn't necessarily go out to one spot. Like you might get pulled in, but you might get shredded out into pieces elsewhere. And then essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to make a wormhole that's like traversable would be a coherent black hole that just comes out in one particular spot.
Right.
Now, in order to do this, from what I've read, it seems like you do need some kind of anchor. Now, that anchor would be like an oppositely charged thing, the opposite of whatever you're basically doing to make the plane disappear, you should have on the other side. So initially, people started calling me Ashton Forbes because, oh, maybe there's an orb on the other side that has opposite charge, and these things just like instantly attract.
That
Once
makes
you
sense to me.
Yeah. And everything's electromagnetism. So that's really what everything boils down to. So you should think of everything as just like a magnet, positive and minus charge. It's how everything in the world works. That's how Einstein and Tesla and those guys that were working on the Philadelphia experiment, that's exactly what they were doing. They were looking for a unification of general relativity and electromagnetism. Because once you unify that, now you can control basically reality. And so to your point, I think that they could have theoretically come out on the other side in one piece, right? Plane could come in one side and come out the other side.
What year was
Now,
this when this happened? This was the 90s, right? Or
2014. So this is only
2014.
10 years ago.
2014, yeah.
This is
10
the
years
last
ago.
plane to disappear, too. People are like, oh, no, it's totally normal. No, it's not normal. This has literally never happened before. It's never happened since either. So it's a pretty weird situation for a plane to just completely disappear out of the sky. And I think that could be annihilation that's happening in the videos, but everything in my gut tells me that's actually teleportation. And then that's the big secret of this UFO stuff is that we're dealing with technology that's like we're not just moving up a little bit in the tech tree. We're moving to a new tier of technology that just obsoletes everything we were dealing with before. You know.
So look, let's fast forward to now. Marco
Sure.
Rubio is now coming out with his own documentary. It's I think it's called, what is it? Age of Disclosure, right? And when I
Yeah.
first heard this, I'm like, all right, so the government's trying to take control of the disclosure. Makes sense. This
Yeah.
is kind of like Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth. What are they going to do?
Good
I just think
analogy.
propaganda right out of the gate, right? That's
Uh,
that's where my mind goes because I'm the conspiracy guy with the tinfoil hat, and so that's where I go with this. I'm like, okay, what's up their sleeve? We know they're going to play the alien card. What's your thoughts on this documentary? I know you watched it, and I'm guilty.
yeah.
I did not watch it. I've just seen previews on this, but here's the new documentary. The Age of Disclosure claims non-human intelligent life exists. Well, we
Mhm.
knew the government would come out and say this stuff. Like,
Mhm.
to me, if there is going to be any contact, it's, to me, Ashton, I don't know what you think, it's going to be spiritual. And I think it's on a personal level.
Mhm.
I think that's the true contact, right, with these
Yeah.
entities or spiritual beings. I think it'd be completely spiritual. But this is going to be what? Little g gods coming that they and then the truth's going to come out that they're going to say, in my opinion, that oh, they seeded our earth. They're our true gods. You know, that's the narrative I think they're going to play here. But what's your thoughts on all this? What's your thoughts on this new documentary, The Age of Disclosure? And where do you think they're going with this?
Well, first thing is, I think that the phenomenon is spiritual in the sense that the more I learn about the science and the physics, the more spiritual I become on this. Because the more I look at the universe and say, oh, this universe is a construct, every construct has to have a creator. So I don't think there's any disagreement between this idea of religion and this idea of aliens. God can create aliens too. It's a big universe. To me, that's not a problem. They actually do speak about that in this movie. And yes, it is filled with propaganda, basically start to finish. The movie is propaganda the entire way. But that doesn't mean that there's not useful knowledge that can be gained from it. Because the best propaganda, the best lies use elements of truth to them. So
Right.
to your point, the question we should be asking is what narrative are they trying to sell to us from this documentary? And I think you nailed it. The narrative they're trying to sell to us is this idea of aliens. They're saying
Right.
we need to acknowledge that the aliens exist and that they're out there and that it means something profound. Like they basically harp on this narrative throughout the movie continuously. Talking about I've seen the bodies, I know that there's multiple species, and they even have Eric Davis who writes all the warp drives and teleportation papers going, yeah, I know of 2 alien species that exist that are out there. And what I gleaned from this, and actually they kind of say it overtly in this movie, especially Chris Mellon, where like it's clear they have a plan. It's clear there's a plan that's in place that they are running through the motions of this particular plan. And they'll say that they're not going to release the technology that would harm national security. People should be just demanding that they tell us what is that? What is that
Right.
harms national security? You can't tell us. And then they'll say, but we can tell them about aliens. They say this like 3 different times in the movie, but we can tell them about aliens. Okay, great. Well, that's like you're holding out one hand, right? It's like when you're little kid, like when you're kids, and then there's like a bunch of different lollipops, and like you want the best flavor, so you hide that lollipop. You don't show your friends, and you're like, "Hey, have whichever one you want," but I've got the cherry one in my pocket, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's what this feels like when they're
Right.
doing this. They're going
That's a great analogy.
right. Yeah, so they're clearly hiding that part, and that's where I look at it and I go, okay, so if you can tell what they're trying to tell you, which is here you go, have some aliens, you can have the purple lollipop, right? And meanwhile, they've got the cherry lollipop they're hiding in their pocket, pretending like they don't really have it, and they've got and they'll say it, it's technology, it's energy sources. It's energy sources and technology and microchips like quantum technologies that we don't currently have in the public realm. We have it in the military and they've been using it. And then the last bit, I'll let you jump in here, is what they say is, and this was actually insightful. They say that what seems to have happened is that way back in like the 40s, maybe during the times of Roswell, what have you, we had a major breakthrough in technology. And we started building this security and secrecy apparatus where it's so compartmentalized. Only certain people know about it. And we pushed it to private companies like Lockheed Martin. And we said, here you go, figure this out. But now what's happened is a bunch of people have died off. The compartmentalization and secrecy was so good that now Lockheed Martin's going, no, we didn't get anything, but this is our proprietary technology. We invented this ourselves. So they can just say, oh, it's our proprietary stuff. You don't have any right to it. Because all the people that like gave it to them back in the 60s, well, they've died off now. They're not here anymore
Right.
at this point. And so we created this weird legal situation. And the thing that people didn't expect, I think that the CIA didn't expect, is that their whole ridiculing of the whole alien phenomenon, it worked too well to the point where now nobody will believe anything they say. And when they try to push the alien stuff, everybody's just like, okay, bro, whatever. We've already heard this.
We've heard all
It's
this.
silly. It's ridiculous. But the reality is the aliens probably do exist. But aliens are going to not be like in the Marvel movies and they're not going to be like in the Disney movies, right? It's going to be way more complicated. Go ahead.
I'm not questioning that, right? I know other life forms exist. I know other entities exist, but I have a lot of question marks on certain things, right? So my questions are more of where are these things really coming from? Where are these interdimensional beings really coming from? Are they coming from another planet, another dimension? Are they coming from right here from under us? Like, we don't know. And then you got to think about the Bible. Then you got to go back to scripture. Then you got to think, I have a big Christian audience, right? They're like,
Mhm.
do not be deceived. The hearts of men will fail them during these times. For the last decade, all we've been seeing on TV is ancient aliens, how they came from above and seeded the planet and left their megalithic structures and this and that. And you're watching this, and it sure does seem some predictive programming. It's a conditioning process. We've all seen this before. They're kind of lubing us up to get ready to go. And now they're getting ready to move in, right? And you're going to have all the new agers going bananas over this shit. And they're going to be going crazy, right? But really, what are these things? I mean, could we say, because we don't know, are they the fallen? I mean, it does say in the very beginning, these things have been cast out from the heaven. They fell down to earth. What are these? Are they masquerading as aliens?
Yeah.
You see these UAPs coming up from under the ocean. That's just my question. What's your thoughts? What do you believe they are? And do you have to have, in order to believe they're the fallen or they're aliens? It's just, how much faith you have. What do you think this is? Who do you think they are?
I can tell you everything about the MH370 videos. I can tell you a lot about our government, and I can even tell you how the technology works. When it comes to aliens and their origin, I can tell you very little, honestly, that I can be sure about.
Yeah.
And, well, I'll tell you, I just don't care. I really don't care. Is that for me, I think it's like, okay, aliens can exist. Sure, whatever. They can be on some other planet somewhere. In fact, I tell people there can be every kind of alien you could possibly imagine. I think that's probably going to be the case, is everything you could possibly imagine probably exists out there. The thing that I just take some issue with, and I could be wrong, is I see this framing of like this interdimensional alien thing where it's like making it sound like they're from some bizarro world or
Right.
something like that. Where I think more of the extra dimension is like a tunnel that you can pass through. Like they're still coming from somewhere in our reality. But when you remove the 0 point energy, it's like removing the distance between 2 points. So I think from that scale, they could be interdimensional because they could get from Andromeda galaxy here instantaneously. Where we would think, well, hey, they broke the speed, they broke the physics, they broke the speed of light to do that. It shouldn't be possible. But the reality is they just have a better understanding of quantum mechanics than we do
Right.
at this point. So
Which would
that's where
also
I like to bring it back
explain,
down. Go ahead.
which would also explain the ancient cultures, Indians
Yes.
that looked to these as gods. Because wow, wouldn't you think they were gods too if you're some primitive ancient culture and these things are just appearing into your reality? So this stuff they've always been in contact with mankind. So why now is it that why did they take, I guess, a quote unquote hiatus, if you want to call it that, right? And are now appearing again?
Well, you want to know my thoughts on this are I think we think of ourselves as this really advanced civilization, but
Right.
we might be closer to ants than ants are to us. We might be closer to ants to aliens than ants are to us at this point in terms of technology, which is crazy to think about. But that could be literally we're out here living our lives blissfully ignorant of what's actually possible. We could have Star Trek replicators, we could be living forever. And you start to think of the implications of stuff like this Star Trek replicator, warp drives, teleporting around, being invisible, controlling the flow of time. These are all real physical technologies based on just general relativity. Now, you would say, why would they even care about us? If they have those technologies, we are insignificant to them. And this is where they present this in the movie. In the documentary, they say, well, what if we hit a certain technology level where all of a sudden we're a threat to them, right? Where all of a sudden the ants now become sentient and they've now figured out that humans exist and they can start coordinating. So that could be part of the reason why maybe, and when we figured this out, would have been during the Manhattan Project or after.
Right, or it would have been, and it happened when we created the nuclear bomb, right? So there you
And
go.
let me explain this because I think that this is the most obvious thing ever that I don't know how more people didn't figure this out. I was actually asking people if anybody else said this before me, but the whole point, if you look at the math of general relativity and manipulating space-time, they just say you need this huge amount of energy density. So you need the energy of the mass of Jupiter, but you got to squish it down. And that's what inertial confinement fusion is. So it's like, oh, well, we just assume that they weren't able to make bombs that produced that much energy. But what if they did? What if they did make
Right,
bombs
right.
that produce that much energy? Or what if they found out something about physics where like the more they compress it, the easier it gets to compress? Where you're like, oh, wait, That's weird. Like this means that we can amplify energy way higher than we thought we could before. I think they figured something like that out. And then you'd say, oh, of course they figured out space-time manipulation from thermonuclear weapons. That was the whole point. It's high energy physics, right? So that's what I think that this all goes back to. And then the scary part is, well, okay, how did they keep it secret? And I already spoke about, they built this culture of secrecy. One other thing that I've investigated and found out about is the 𝗂𝗃 group. They basically went and built, and probably Edward Teller was like one of the founders of this. The rumor is that these people were like the Majestic 12, like the smoky room gatekeeper
Yeah,
people.
right.
And they've just, the CIA, this is how the CIA, people think the CIA does all this nefarious stuff, and then they do, I'm sure. I mean, they teleported a
Oh
plane
yeah.
over, but sometimes it's just easier than that. People say, okay, well, how did they get the secrets from the engineers when they want to know, like, what secret advanced stuff they're working on? You know what they do? They invite them over for dinner. That's it. It's like, oh, just invite them over. Just be nice to them. Just be like, hey, man, what are you working on? And so what they did is they
Yeah.
took that and they turned that into the 𝗂𝗃s. They said, okay, we'll give you these prominent academic roles like physics professor emeritus at all these universities, wherever you want to live, basically. And in response, you come every summer and you give us your insight on what should be revealed for national security from a scientific perspective. And you can see how this could get out of control. And
But
I'm going to
this
go ahead
is
and
the
take it a
same
step
way
further.
the secret societies work.
It is. It is.
Exactly the same formula.
And I was going to connect it further for the people that are conspiracy minded people out there. They probably didn't know that Jeffrey Epstein was huge into this world as well, where he was hosting gravitational wave conferences with Lawrence
Damn, that's
Krauss,
right.
inviting all these physicists and stuff in there as well, where you can see like, oh shit, this is the secret underworld of like the people that were in the know were these professors that were connected to black projects that like during the summer they get called to the 𝗂𝗃s by the CIA and there's an agenda of like this person spoke too much to China. We're going to, reprimand them and weird stuff like that. That's how they keep it secret. So they built this weird culture of
And
like,
and
you're in the
blackmail,
club.
right?
And if
Yeah,
you
the
are,
black.
you don't say anything about it. And Lou Alzano mentions this in the movie too. He says that it's rare, but they can kill Americans if they present a immediate, or what is it, like immediate national security threat or whatever the legal verbiage is that they use, which explains why I'm not being killed, because I'm clearly harming national security, but I'm not like an imminent security threat. It's not like I had some previous information that, if I get that out there, I'm just
Right.
discovering things organically in the
You're
public.
you're basically just asking questions
Yeah.
in the public domain. I mean, that's what you're doing. I mean, but what about like let's think about this for a second. Let's go
Yeah.
back
Go
to
ahead.
World War II. Let's go back to Admiral Byrd in Antarctica. You go back to all these stories, right?
Mhm.
Do you believe that all of this started? I mean, do you think that, I guess we could say, would you say that maybe the first country, or would it have been the Nazis that intercepted this technology first and was using it? And that's why Antarctica, they say all roads lead to Antarctica, is that's why that Antarctica is so, it's blocked off. Nobody can get there. Nobody can fly over it. Do you think that it was Nazi controlled until World War II, and then we brought over Project Paperclip, and they started working for us, or actually we started working for them? What's your thoughts on that? Do you think that this technology was first given to the Nazis?
Yeah, well, Jason pretty much convinced me that the origins come from the Nazis, and he had a pretty good story about them using this technology as leverage to basically incorporate themselves into United States political and government structure. Werner von Braun, helped build NASA. There's another guy he mentioned during the podcast, but I can't remember the exact name. But also, it was Ronald Richter that he testified that he saw some plasma experiment in the 30s with the Nazis. And he knew that this could then like reverse entropy or whatever we need to do gravitational manipulation. So then he goes to Argentina and starts building a clean fusion reactor. So this is a guy that clearly worked with the Nazis, then goes to Argentina in the 50s to build a clean fusion reactor, which only now do we know means aneutronic fusion, the thing that I've been promoting nonstop, that we've got public companies that are working on it. And then what happened with that? It was discredited, and then all his science was basically stolen by the United
Of
States.
course.
And then 10 years later, then you've got John Knuckles and Lowell Wood, who are our thermonuclear weapons engineers, building clean, efficient, clean fusion bombs, similar to the idea of clean fusion that Ronald Richter was doing. And this is where a clean fusion bomb. What's a clean fusion bomb? That means you have no big boom. Like
Right.
the clean part is means there's no heat, there's no
No
radiation coming out of the
aftermath.
bomb.
No
Yeah,
aftermath
like
of the
no
bomb.
aftermath coming up. And so then after that, what happened? We did this test. It was wildly successful. Nobody really knows what happened. And then we passed the nuclear weapon ban treaty, and nobody's allowed to test weapons anymore. You're like, huh, that's weird. And then 30 years later, we passed the complete nuclear weapon ban treaty. And to this day, we've never seen since. So you can draw a very clear path, in my opinion, that goes straight back to the Nazis. And there's other, little side paths that seem to support that view. So, does it come from the aliens? And the Nazis weren't in occult stuff, demonic things. So I don't have any problem with people saying like there's a spiritual demonic aspect to this. This was actually mentioned in the movie as well, that a lot of high ranking people, I think it was Jay Stratton, said he was surprised when these high ranking people that he respected so much were saying like, don't look into that UFO thing. It's demonic. We don't,
Right, right. That's the way
we
they
don't want to
just
talk
shut
about
it down, right? And a lot of people do that. That's why I wanted to bring that up on this
it. Yeah.
show. I wanted to get your thoughts on that because that's the argument right now. That's going to cause a lot of division and it's going to further polarize the nation. And a lot of people are going to think it's the end of the world when these things, like, let's say they come out with this disclosure and they say, hey, these beings have always been here. That's going to cause a huge rift within Christianity, the Muslims, everything. All religions will just just either get stronger in their faith or crumble.
Yeah.
Like it's going to get crazy. I mean, people don't realize the repercussions of this.
You've nailed it. And I think you're seeing it the right way now. And I think if anything, I hope that movie helps that, is that we have to think about the repercussions of this. To the point of the demonic thing, though, real quick, even Tucker Carlson has been saying like he thinks that nukes were like created by demons or what have you. In a sense, he's right. The demons were us, though. Like we got this technology, and it is, almost the weapons of gods themselves. And now we're just flawed men who are grabbing at this. I would almost agree. From what I've learned, it is the end of the world. It's just a matter of when. It's only a matter of when. We're dealing with technology.
Or it's the end of our
so
perspective
powerful.
of the world. It's the end of our interpretation of the world.
Exactly.
That's what it is. We're going into a new paradigm, and not everyone's going to make the shift. I mean,
you've nailed it.
Right? I mean,
think about this. So let's lay these down and I'll let you jump in on them. And these were things that are talked about in the movie, but like, what are the negative outcomes? And 𝗏𝗏 talks about, told the story on Joe Rogan too, about how he was pulled in like the 90s, early 2000s to like review whether or not we were ready for disclosure. And they came out and they said no. And here were the reasons. One, economic. Just think of just the economic impact of like now all fossil fuels are obsolete because now we've got this aneutronic fusion. We have unlimited energy forever that's just coming straight out of the vacuum of space. Infinite energy. So that's going to collapse all of society. Think of the legal aspects. Remember, Lockheed Martin might have gotten a flying saucer or some German, 𝗔𝗃 or something like that. They're going to get sued into oblivion by all their competitors, because they were getting illegal, unfair advantages from the U.S. government when they shouldn't have been because they're a private company, right?
Right.
So you think about it from that perspective. Then just think of it from the unrest perspective of people's psychological perspective. Like, think of all the lefty, libtarded minded people that don't even think conspiracies are possible, that are now about to find out that we've been hiding free energy from the world. And by the way, it was really easy to convince people because people are mostly really stupid.
Yes.
Like
agreed with that.
People are going to hurt themselves, dude.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah. People
so those are just a few examples. Go ahead.
And then the highly religious.
And I think
come on, this is all of a sudden going to be, when people's reality shatters or their belief system shatters, that's very dangerous. People act, that's a very unpredictable person, right? When you shatter their belief systems and they have to fight with themselves internally on what they believe now. I mean, what they're going to make you feel, you're making them try to accept.
Mm-hmm. And that's where I think the religious people will have the easiest time dealing with it.
Really?
I think that the people that, they got boosters and what have you, those are the people that are going to be psychologically struggle the most because they just trust their government.
Well, I don't think those people are around anymore, are
they? Some of them, sadly, I think are. Yeah. But that's the problem, too, is that people believe in this mass formation psychosis. But some people, of course, will just reject it. They'll just say, aliens don't exist. It's a psyop. I don't care. And that's fine. You know, that's totally fine if they don't want to. Other people, I think, will just say, okay, well, God created me, God created aliens. Boom, problem solved, right? This is why I don't put this too much stock in this idea that like the religions are going to collapse. I think the bigger problem is what you mentioned, I think, or you alluded to, is like cults will begin to form. New cults will begin to form.
The New Agers.
The New Agers, right? Especially, you know, they're going to start praying to the aliens. And
Yeah.
then the one that scares me is if it does turn out that it's connected to nukes and we have unlimited energy and we can make black hole weapons, there's going to be cults forming about cults to just make those weapons to destroy us all. Like literal cults will form to be like the end time cult. And our whole goal is to make a weapon that destroys the whole planet. Like stuff like that's going to
Right.
happen too. So this is the reason why you can imagine you're looking at all these issues and you're in the 60s now and you're Edward Teller and you're the guy who knows all the stuff. You go, okay, we're not going to tell people about this. Like, we're going to make
We
this
can't handle
JSON
this shit.
group. We ain't ready for this shit. Maybe in 100 years, we'll be ready for this. Maybe, right? And then you just decide to hide it because why? Just like in the Matrix movie, ignorance is bliss.
Well, hold on. So once they introduce this technology to us, which it sounds like they're doing in this documentary with Marco Rubio, right?
Mhm.
Age of Disclosure.
Yeah.
So then what next? So in the late 1800s, if you would have told them that you were going to go to an airport and get on a jet that goes 500 miles an hour and you're going to be able to go in 1 hour, what takes them months
Yeah.
but they'd look at you like you're bananas, right? So now could we say there's going to be transportation stations? Like people are going to be able to transport now anywhere they want to go? Because that's what would have to happen if they're going to disclose this to us. It would have to go that direction, right?
Yeah, and I think that, and they talk about this.
Forget
What's
airports. We're going to the transport station, and I'm going to go to. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem, though, is that anything that we release to the public now becomes available to our adversary. And they talk about this a lot too, not both from the surveillance aspect. The reason why they won't admit the MH370 videos are real probably isn't because we did the operation. I don't think Trump would have a problem admitting that we did some operation. The problem is the sources and the methods, right? This is why they won't release other UFO videos. Obviously, if they've got videos like the MH370 videos, they've clearly got really good stuff out there, right?
I mean,
and
dude,
it's got to be indisputable because those videos are indisputable. So the thing is that they don't want to reveal anything to the public that our adversaries don't know about yet. And so it's not a matter of we just have the teleportation tech right away, but you can see that they are spilling some of that stuff out. Like just 3 examples in the last couple of weeks. There's a huge investment into fusion research, like hundreds of millions of dollars of grants that are now going to go to it. And that was right after I basically went on the internet and said, we need to be promoting more into fusion. Whoever wins fusion wins everything. The other one, these quantum Department of Energy centers that are now being set up, all this quantum research. And then the new one was just like yesterday, this Genesis project, which we're going to like combine research and AI so that America wins all this. Like this is where they're realizing, oh shit, we might actually lose publicly to China if we don't let some more of this kind of technology come out. Now, Marco Rubio's position, because he's in a position to know, and I'm almost sure he knows because he's like the national security advisor, secretary of state. He was also talking about the UFO stuff before this. So, and I've gone like a 180 on him. I'm a huge Marco Rubio fan now. But
yeah, he's growing on me like a weed.
Yeah, and he's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing, and that's why he's in these positions. I think he knows that we have to expose the advantage, use the advantage while we have it. This was also something that Jason said. Imagine we have this super advanced technology. We realize that China and Russia, they're going to eventually figure it out, right? There's this guy, Ashton, yelling about it on the internet.
Yeah.
They're going to eventually figure it out.
Ashton.
So you might as well at least take advantage while you have that advantage. You basically should use that as leverage. And I think that's what Trump is doing right now. And Marco Rubio talks about this. I don't put Marco Rubio in the same bucket as these other guys, but they have, their paths are crossing on this one issue for sure. He also says that people have a naive understanding of how the cover-up works. They just think that like, well, presidents should know everything, but presidents sometimes don't even know who to ask to find even out the information. And he even talks about like, even the director of the CIA is an appointee. So you think about that. Even the director of the CIA is an appointee. The people that know are the 30-year CIA bureaucrats that they worked their whole lives and they like used to know Ronald Reagan and this other stuff, right?
I feel like Donald Trump, right? Either he defied all odds and became president twice, or he had levels of clearance that we just don't even know about. And I think the latter. I think he had levels of clearance. I know
Mhm.
his uncle got Tesla's technology.
Yep.
Didn't was it John Trump or which Trump was John?
John Trump was way more important than
There
people
you
realize,
go. Am I
guys.
right?
Like, and we've been
How
living
many
in
people know that?
yeah, what I think happened with that is that the deep state didn't want him to win in 2016. They had a plan going to be the disclosure president. They had a plan for revealing the technology and the alien stuff, and that all fell apart when Trump came in. And they were like, okay, well, we got to work with him. And
She's
at
on
that point,
record saying, "Do we play the alien card yet?" When he won,
yeah,
are we gonna play the alien card yet? She's on record
yep.
saying that.
No, she was definitely going to. And Jason Giorgiani kind of confirmed that. And I totally believe it. I just believe it. But Trump knows. I think Trump found out in his first administration because how do you hide when you have secret weapons like this? You know, it becomes progressively more difficult to hide that from the president. And now he knows and he's just playing ball. Like he's saying stuff like we have weapons nobody understands because he knows that we do. He may not even know how it works. He doesn't need to know that we got
Right.
crazy shit, right? And this is why the first hint. Remember when he went on Joe Rogan and Joe Rogan, he was like, he gets asked about aliens. He's like, oh, it's pretty interesting. And he's like, I think we found some stuff on like Mars or something
Yeah.
like that. And Joe Rogan's like,
Totally
no, we
playing.
didn't find anything. We didn't find anything on Mars. And Trump's like, okay, sure. And now they
Yeah.
just recently admitted that there's like microbes or
Right.
something on Mars,
Right.
right? Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
Trump
he
knows, man. He
plays coy,
knows.
bro. He plays cat and mouse with
He
people,
does.
man.
He's smart, man.
He's
Trump's smart.
smart. He's a genius. You know, he's a
Smart,
genius.
dude.
And he purposely talks down at his speeches. He purposely talks on that sixth to seventh grade level so people can understand. He's smart, bro. That guy's a genius. And I
He
think
is.
that he's always had this technology. I think that's kind of what gave him the shoe into this or where he's at right now. I think if we all knew what was really going on here, I've heard that there's supercomputers that have gamed all this out. I mean, I've heard
Yep.
everything, right? But we are definitely interesting times. Have you ever heard of Terrence McKenna?
Yeah, heard but I don't remember the exact
Well,
context yet.
okay, Terrence McKenna was, mainly about he spoke out about DMT, psychedelics, things like that, and he
Oh
said
yeah.
that we're going to go through this after 2012. We reach time wave zero, where it's like
Mhm.
space and time collapse on each other, and we're going through a
Mhm.
bottleneck where everything starts happening, novelty spikes, and
Yeah.
everything starts happening 20 times faster than it ever did. And I think, I think he was right. I think we are in that time.
Yep.
I think we've evolved into this time where we are going through this, whether it's our position in the galaxy, whether we're getting hit with gamma rays, whatever it is, it does feel like time and space is speeding up. And I think we've hit the point of no return. And now if we were jogging in the 1700s, 1800s, and 1900s, we're now in a full-on sprint and everything's just happening that much faster. Do you agree
Yep.
with that? Do you think like we are now at the level of all things are going to come to us, disclosure, everything at once, and we're going to get hit with the big shebang? And that's what the Bible talks about. Maybe that this is the end times, but only the end time for those who that can't shift paradigms.
Agree with everything, all of the above, sir. All of the above. I truly believe. I think of Revelations and the Alpha and the Omega. I think of like great resets happening, and I also think of like, well, let's just assume our civilization's been on this earth for 50,000 years. Just as I'm throwing a number out there, depending on how you count certain races, what have you. We know almost nothing about our first 40,000 years, almost nothing, right? And then at 10,000 years, we know about the Romans and we start to learn some about history. Just in the last 100 years, our trajectory of technology it's exponential. It's exponential. We didn't even know AI was a thing when those videos leaked, and now
Yeah.
we use AI every day, pretty much. So I think that this is the thing that's the impetuous for them to push it out. Why are they now starting to have to tell the truth about some of this technology? Why are they now trying to focus us on aliens? Because it's going to come out one way or another. Like you can already say, like, ask the AI to read through Ashton Forbes' tweets and reference all the scientific papers that he talks about and put together theories, and you're going to find it's going to spit out all the stuff that I'm saying to you right now because it's all there. Once the AI knows what to pull and what to look at, and how to put the pieces together, it's going to figure it out. And I think that it already happened. I think that when they started to figure this out, one of the other last connections I want to give to you here is that I started looking at nukes and the history of nukes and thermonuclear weapons, and I found that that's basically where computers came from. I mean, not directly, but that's like why we were advancing computers, and you need to use computers for thermonuclear weapons to do these complex calculations. In fact, the reason why we're building quantum computers is for advanced thermonuclear calculations as well.
Wow.
So you're going, wait, really? I listened to John Kramer. He's one of these professor emeritus at University of Washington. Somebody asked him, what do they use quantum computers for? Oh, they're very useful for these thermonuclear calculations where you have to do these complex derivatives. And I'm going, oh, that's why the orbs are spinning around the plane and collapsing like this perfect formation, because it's like it's nuclear physics, nuclear weapons, whatever you want to call it. It's we figured out this space-time manipulation from working with high energy physics. Pretty cool.
You know, it just reminds me, and I'll just tell this quick story. I was driving through
Sure.
White Sands. You know, I'm close to White Sands, New Mexico. And I was driving through White Sands to go to Rio. And I remember this was probably in 2016, 17. And I was walking out of the Carino's restaurant in Alamogordo, getting ready to get in my truck. And right over you can see the White Sands area. All of a sudden, it's about 9 at night. Beautiful constellation of these orbs appear, right? And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, get the phone out. That's incredible. And the minute I get my phone out, they disappear. And I'm like, okay, that sucks. It's like no one's ever going to believe what I just saw right now. They look like Christmas ornaments in the sky, right? And then I get in my truck and I'm with a girlfriend at the time. I'm like, you saw that. You saw that, right? I saw it. I swear to God. I was like, damn it. And as we're turning, we're going up into the mountains. Bam, dude, over my truck. Beautiful lights again, all over the place. And I go, okay, get the phone out. Get the phone out. We get the phone out and bink, they're gone. And then I see them in my rear view mirror. They appear behind me. So I knew then, dude, I was like, okay, I'm in White Sands. I know this is all government land here. This is where they tested the atomic bomb. We got this stuff. Like, I didn't think they were alien. I thought for sure they were ours, but it was obviously alien technology to me. But I knew right then and there, I'm like, we got this, dude. This is ours.
Yeah, let me add one more thought on this is that you made a good point. I don't remember if it was in our pre-show or not, but this idea of like there's clearly not aliens flying around in a little plasma ball, right? Like, even
No.
those balls you see spinning around the plane, like I never thought there was aliens
Right.
inside
No.
those. Like, and it's kind of weird to even think that. It goes to show how much our thought process is based on the technology that we understand. Today we understand about drones, right? But even like 20 years ago, drones were in their infancy. 30 years ago, nobody really knew about drones. So when we thought about aliens, we always thought about an alien inside a flying saucer or something like that. But now you think about it, you're like, why would aliens even come here? If I'm on this planet, why would I go to another planet unless it's, habitat was exactly the same as ours?
The
I
only
have to
reason they would
breathe
come in is
air.
they need something, resources.
Exactly. Resource. And what we
And
realize
I
about
think
that
we're the
is that
biggest resource. I think humans are.
yeah,
That's
we
that's
might
a
not
whole
need
other segment.
resources. So if I'm right about this physics of this 0 point energy, and that's what they talk about in this movie, like nonstop, and it's not a mystery. It's because those guys are the people that I found that are the ones that are hiding this stuff. It means that we don't need the sun. It means that Elon Musk is wrong when he says solar power is the premier source of energy, because we can make our own little sun. And we can pull
Right.
the, we don't need the
Right.
energy from the light. We can get the energy from the fusion reactions directly.
Jeez, man.
So if this is the
Wow.
case, aliens don't need us for anything except for what you just mentioned, which is our consciousness, because that is the only thing that's like immaterial, not necessarily physical, right?
For
Because
our
everything else they can
souls.
just and this gets mentioned too, is that now you start to wonder, like, if the first thing I kind of realized when I started to realize Tesla was right about this science and physics is, what if he's right too about our bodies just being a receiver, and that we
Yeah.
are connecting to our consciousness through this extra dimension somehow all the time, and our body's just a physical
This is
receiver for
just the
that.
interface.
It's just an interface, right? If that's the case, well, why couldn't a computer also do the same thing? Why couldn't
I
a
know.
quantum computer start to become conscious because like it
So then
starts to
everything
tap
would be
into
simulation.
simulations inside of simulations, my man.
Yeah.
So, that's where I tell people we definitely are in a matrix of sorts, and we must be in a construct, and therefore every construct has a creator. So I think it's only logical to assume there's a God. But there
Has
you
to
go.
be.
We
There
just
has
found
to
that.
be an engineer to the matrix, right? We can agree
Exactly.
on that. Ashton,
Exactly.
thank you. Ashton Forbes, everybody. Give a big thumbs up. Share this video far and wide. Ashton, where do people find you?
Yeah, find me at JustXAshton on Twitter and on YouTube as well, at JustXAshton. I do several live streams a week where I talk about this kind of content and topics, and we even
Just
flip it.
ask Ashton or just X?
Just X Ashton, sorry.
Okay.
Just X Ash at Just X Ashton. on Twitter and on YouTube. Check it out. I go through this, talk about these concepts a lot, try to get people, I try to demystify the science and the physics and even the alien topic. Because to your point, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to psyop us and get us to believe certain stuff, as opposed to us educating ourselves. And then now aliens aren't a big mystery to us. The
Right.
flying saucers and stuff aren't a big mystery on how this stuff works. So it now becomes a lot more difficult for them to kind of influence us.
Everyone fears the unknown, right?
Precisely.
That's it. That's what it is. So, Ashton, thank you so much for joining me, man. God bless you. All right. I
Thank you, sir.
appreciate all your work, man. You're incredibly smart guy. God.
I appreciate it. Hit me up anytime.
You got it.